Typical. Rathbun will be late for his own funeral.
Inviting us like this, then not showing up for dinner? Rude, I'd say. Plain rude.
Well, I've certainly enjoyed dinner. It was wonderful. Mr. Quiche, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. And my wife here and I thank you.
You got some real height on your souffle. You do all the cooking yourself?
Of course. We've been catering dinners for many, many years.
You wouldn't want to give away your secret recipes, wouldn't you?
Wouldn't mind my missus making me something to pile once in a while.
Coffee, ma'am?
No, thank you. I just want to know what's going on here.
I'm sure I don't know nothing, ma'am.
Please, Miss Kimberly, Mr. Rathbone will be here soon.
He missed the whole dinner for crying out loud.
As always, Mr. Rathbone has his reasons.
What an honor, though, to be invited to the most famous detective's home in the world.
Why, thank you, Ms. Lindell. And I'm so glad you all could make it.
About time, Rathbone.
Detective Greg, my old friend. It has been a while.
Well, you went retired, not me.
Found enough to keep you busy, Mr. Rathbone? Oh, yes, Mr. Crow. I've been tying up some loose ends, you might say.
Why'd you invite us all here tonight?
Not that the dinner wasn't good. The salmon was as flaky as a spring snowfall.
We're here at my invitation to finish some business that was started 15 years ago.
What business is that?
Why, you should all know, Miss Crisp. Miss Crisp holds up a check that I'm taking the precaution to claim.
This check is made up to Mr. Rathbone for the sum of $80,000.
A sizable amount, no?
I wouldn't have framed it. I'd have cashed that faster than an egg can poach.
Never!
Why not?
It was paid to me following the case I worked ceaselessly on, but unfortunately was never resolved. Until now.
Who is this check from, Mr. Rathbone?
It is signed Charles Fraser.
Oh, I knew it had to be something like this. After all these years, all of us together again.
I was afraid this little gathering has something to do with all that.
We were asked so many questions after it happened. I don't think I could take another, not even 15 years later.
Those poor little girls.
At least one of them was spared.
My body wonders whatever became of her.
Why, she's sitting at this very table. Allow me to introduce you to Jenny Fraser, who is now Cornelia Lindell.
Your little Jenny?
I don't believe it.
Let's get a look at you.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. That is the real Jenny Fraser.
And I do remember all of you. Mr. Rathbone asked me not to say anything. I hope you don't think I've been rude.
But you've changed so.
Mother and father made sure of that, even to change my name. But Mr. Rathbone, does it really matter now at this point? I mean, you solved the case. I mean, my poor little sister has been gone so long.
It most certainly matters, Ms. Lindell. After all, justice, like dessert, must be served.
And after all these years, you solved this thing? Come on, Rathbone, even for a man of your talents, that's hard to believe.
As is so often the case, a memory linked with a chance encounter has produced unfavorable results for the criminal.
Who is the criminal then, Mr. Rathbone?
I can assure you the perpetrator is with us as we speak.
Then out with it! None of us has time for your usual theatrics, Rathbone.
Sit down, Inspector. And now that you've enjoyed dessert, it is time to serve the just desserts. Miss Crisp.
15 years ago this very night, two little girls were taken from the Fraser home. Jenny was 6 while her sister Jessica was 2.
Oh, Jessica.
The little thing.
How she loves to chase butterflies in the garden.
She even helped me dry dishes. Plastic ones, of course.
A telephone caller, Charles Fraser, demanded a ransom of $100,000. Fraser did exactly as he was told and followed instructions to the drop-off, even to the point of going alone. However, the young girl wasn't doing that night, I noticed.
Nor the next day, nor the next, nor the next. Tell us what happened, Miss Lindell.
Must I?
You poor dear. I wouldn't say a thing.
It's almost over now, Miss Lindell. Tell us how you escaped.
It was horrible. They kept us in a small barn, shed, or something like that. I can't really say because they tied bags of fabric over our heads and our hands and feet with duct tape. But I could smell the hay and there was a goat. He was our only friend. And he had a taste for tape. He liked to chew it.
They like the glue, don't they?
That's right. And as he chewed, my hands got free. And then my legs. I was trying to get the bag off my head when I heard someone coming. I knew I had to get out. So I kissed Jessica goodbye and I promised her I'd come back for her. I promised. But all I remember now is her crying and crying and crying.
And then you wandered blindly through the woods.
That's right. Walking into trees, tripping over branches, all with the bag on my head. Suddenly I walked onto pavement and I saw lights through the bag. And then I heard the screech of brakes.
Fortunately, a motorist swerved their car, stopped their vehicle, and immediately took me to safety.
That's right. But poor Jessie was never found.
After the police had found where the shack was, the kidnapper and your sister have been long gone. No clues.
He, or she, had been very careful to not leave any clues behind, except for one that was found in the pocket of your sweater.
You were wearing old clothes, honest as the kidnappers had, and your night clothes must have been destroyed.
I suppose so. I never really knew I had anything in my pockets.
Kept that a secret, we did. Can't let everything out to the press.
What was it?
And what does it have to do with any of us?
Begging your pardon, but we brought after dinner mints.
Homemade, I might add.
Feel free to serve them, and then please stay. We need you to serve the punch.
You should only any of us had anything to do with the crime.
Miss Wimberley,
I had enough of this. I heard enough 15 years ago. I know I had nothing to do with such a horrible thing. I'm leaving.
Want me to stop her, Rathbone?
Detective, she'll be back. Need use of the bathroom, Miss Oakland?
I don't feel well. I need some air.
Please go right to the kitchen into the bathroom. It sparkles at night with the scent of lilacs and roses.
But if either of them's the one,
Oh, they'll be back, Detective. And in the meantime, I can get on with the only clue found in the case. It was a scrap of paper, ordinary paper, and on it was a smattering of letters that looked something like this.
A lot of times of like a print white quality. This note is handwritten.
15 years ago, we asked each of you to write something in your own hand, and we compared it to what was found on the note. But, unfortunately, we found no results. Until now. But still,
My car won't start, and I just had it serviced. It's dead.
such a pity.
Detective, I demand you take me into town where I can catch a bus.
But I'm afraid the detectives told one so either.
what?
During dinner, Mr. Rathbone took the liberty of ensuring that you guys would cooperate.
Here now, there's laws against stuff like that.
We have not permanently damaged anything.
But I want to leave.
And you shall soon enough, if you care to join us. Ah, the faithful cook's returned.
I've never been so insulted in my life.
What is it, Miss Oakwood?
That dishwasher they got in there accused me of making a mess on her clean floor.
Oh, we're sorry, ma'am. That's our niece Chloe, and she's very headstrong.
I'll go have a talk with her right now. No need, Miss Rakesh. If we let her be, she'll be able to finish her work. Now, where was I?
The clue, the bit of paper in my pocket.
Yes. We studied it and studied it, but it made no sense.
Had to have been a code of some kind.
None of us know anything about it.
That's right. Nobody discussed the clues with us suspects, that's for sure.
Miss Wimberley, you were the girl's nanny, were you not?
Yes, but
And you were in the room next to theirs, weren't you?
I told the police. I told everyone. I'd taken a sleeping pill that night. I had trouble sleeping. I didn't hear a thing, not a thing.
We need
about it.
He'd been sick for a long time. He had good insurance, but his benefits were running out from his long illness, as were your personal savings. That is why you had to work as a cook all these years.
Nothing wrong with good hard work, Mr. Rathbone.
Really, Rathbone?
And that night, you were in your room with your husband, weren't you?
Yes, and just like I told the police, all I heard was a truck driving away.
Precisely at 9 p.m.
Yes, I had just given my poor Billy his evening dose of painkiller.
And you're sure it was a truck?
A small truck, yes, not one of those semis, but a small one.
I never heard a thing.
From the gardener's house, it would have been difficult.
Especially for someone hard of hearing, unless, of course.
Unless what?
Unless somebody knew it was a truck but didn't want to give us that information for some reason.
Look here, Rathbone.
And Mr. Trowell, you could have used money at the time too, didn't you?
When couldn't I use money?
You had the opportunity at the time for a partnership at a gardening supply store.
Yeah, but I didn't get it, did I? If I'd have had $100,000, I would have gotten everything I wanted.
A very good point, Mr. Trowell.
You've been over and over all this, Rathbone.
And you, Detective Good, you were passed up on a promotion because you didn't solve this case, weren't you?
I wasn't the first person ever overlooked, and I won't be the last either.
Then you see my point. You all have suffered far more than I. And even now, 15 years later, the air of suspicion still hangs heavy on all of your shoulders. Now, I would like to propose a toast.
A toast?
Humor me, Detective. Mr. and Mrs. Peach. A toast is good for the soul. It will help us to remember those days, those happier days, before this terrible tragedy. And it will help us to remember, and it will help us to realize that we may soon return to that happiness we once so cherished. Mr. and Mrs. Peach? Oh, sir, we couldn't. Then perhaps for this splendid dinner you served.
Well, in that case,
And now, to the two Fraser bones and the happiness they once shared. And furthermore, may they soon share that happiness they have missed all these years.
Oh dear.
Now see what you've done, Mr. Know-It-all?
How could you say something so cruel?
Because it is true.
Jessica Fraser's dead, Rathbone. She's been dead for the past 15 years.
Yet no evidence was ever found.
Nothing, but that doesn't mean...
Isn't that in itself suspicious?
Please, Mr. Rathbone.
Miss Lindell, I don't mean to be cruel. I assure you, soon you will see the light of dawn. Everything all right, Miss Crisp?
No, I'm fine.
Are you sure? You look a bit pale.
Yeah, really, I'm fine.
You can't be too sure after that nasty bout of pneumonia you had a few weeks back.
Rathbone, we're sorry to hear about your secretary's illness, but this is getting us nowhere.
I can assure you, Miss Crisp's pneumonia will get us everywhere.
I think you slipped like a pancake.
Detective, you're a policeman. Do something.
You're trying my patience, Rathbone.
Then let us move swiftly.
Sir, if you don't mind, we'd like to get help back and help clear this cleaning.
we're serving at the Gladstone's engagement party tomorrow.
Ah, the traveling life of Caton's.
Been good to us all these years.
Doing one last favor and serve a bit more punch, and then you're dismissed. Now, back to Miss Crisp's pneumonia. It was a serious case, was it not?
I spent a week in the hospital.
Which means you were not healed.
Oh, good thinking, Rathbone.
And that means I had to spend all my time in this great big house.
We should all have to suffer so.
But that's the thing. You wouldn't. You all have very practical skills. You, Miss Hunkle, can cook. You, Miss Wimberly, can raise and educate children. You, Detective Dredd, can find and catch the criminal. And Mr. Trowell can grow golden. Even the quiches can prepare and serve a feast. I can do none of these things. All I can do is think, and thinking won't get you anywhere when you're hungry. And I did get hungry.
The point, Rathbone?
The point, Detective, is I got tired of eating food out of crinkly bags. So I decided to try my hand at cooking.
Well, bully for you.
I took a cookbook off the shelf, and I decided I had a yen for a raspberry tart. So I found a recipe, and I started to gather the ingredients. Flour, eggs, butter, and then I stopped.
Why?
That is when I realized.
Realize what?
Realized what was on the scrap of paper in Ms. Lindell's sweater.
What are you getting at?
What I'm getting at is the sweater Ms. Lindell was wearing belonged to the kidnapper, and the kidnapper had a scrap of a recipe in their pocket.
A recipe? So that means the kidnapper could have been the...
Now see here.
I can assure you, whoever kidnapped the children should already start to be feeling very dizzy. For I put a little bit of justice in the punch they were served. Soon they will be very sleepy. And then mercifully, the poison shall take full effect.
Poison?
We all want to see the guilty punished,
But that's taking the law into your own hands, Rathbone.
and I am prepared to face the consequences, Detective.
Stop this nonsense now!
Mrs. Quiche.
Yes, Mrs. Quiche. There had to be somebody who cooked, but this is not Mrs. Quiche at all.
I don't know what you're talking about. She's just a bit overworked.
Mr. Rathbone, do something. She's gonna die.
I assure you, Miss Wimberly, there was no poison. It was all just a matter of the power of suggestion coupled with guilt. It was Mr. Quiche and his sister here, who were then Jake and Myra Ferris, who kidnapped the children 15 years ago.
That's a lie.
No, Mr. Quiche, Ferris Catering had served a dinner at the Fraser House 3 days before the kidnapping. You needed the money to cover your gambling debts, and you used the dinner to come up with your little plan.
I don't know any Jake Ferris. Nobody saw me at that house.
Mrs. Fraser described the kidnappers as a man with a short, dark beard, glasses, and a scar on his forehead, and the woman with blonde hair and blue eyes. Easy enough to change your appearances. And you used the dinner to get the layout of the house.
You can't prove anything.
The truck Miss Hurd portrayed was the Ferris catering truck, an old one that you'd gotten rid of after that little run-in you had at the shack where you hid the children. I've taken the liberty of getting the bill of sale, and the salesman had the foresight to obtain a copy of your driver's licenses bearing your photos, you with your dark beard, glasses, and scar. The police have already taken your personal papers into their custody. Among them, will we find a recipe missing just this scrap of information?
Clever, Rathbone. Real clever. But we got away with it once, and we'll do it again. Chloe, get the truck started.
You can't get away with this.
That shout! I knew I heard that shout from somewhere.
Yes, when you described being held captive in the shack, you said they. You instinctively knew there were two of them.
Wouldn't you have to have someone to shout at?
Get up, lazy thing. I'm not doing all the work. Chloe, get the truck started. Now! Chloe! Now all of you, back over there.
What are you gonna do with us?
You fool. Now they know. You're kidding me.
I told you we shouldn't have taken this job.
They offered us twice our usual, and with your debts, we couldn't afford to miss this. What are we going to do with them?
What are you yelling at me for? Here, hold this. If any of them move, shoot. What? Tish, get some rope, tape, too.
What are we going to do with them?
Do as I say and ask questions later.
Miss Quiche, we enjoy dinner very much.
What's all this about?
Do you recognize any of the guests here?
Shoot him!
Take a good look at all of the guests, especially Ms. Lindell.
That's far enough.
Say something, Ms. Lindell.
Mr. Rathbone, what do I say?
I know you. But how do I know you? You don't know any of them, stupid girl. Who are they?
That's you and Ms. Lindell.
What?
Rathbone, you're crazy.
I've seen a dress like that before, I think. Give me it. Give it to me. No. Stupid girl, you should have shot her.
Come with me, Mr. Quiche. You've got a lot of questions to answer.
And on your way out, Detective, make sure you get Mrs. Quiche. I'm sure she's out by that truck, but it's not going anywhere. And perhaps now, Detective, you'll get that promotion you so well deserve. Mr. Quiche didn't want to keep either of you, but his sister couldn't let you go. She most likely threatened to go to the police if you told you. Or worse.
But I'm their niece.
That's what they wanted you to think.
They're my aunt and uncle. They took me in when my parents died in a plane crash.
You must have invented that story, dear. You never had an aunt or uncle.
Jesse?
Oh, dear me, can it really be you?
They held you all these years.
Who's Jesse? I'm alone if they're not my aunt and uncle. I have no one but them.
No, no, no. You have a family that has never been this happy before. Don't you see, Jesse? I'm your sister. I'm the girl in the picture.
My sister.
And now, to the real purpose of this dinner. A reunion. A long overdue reunion. It is good to serve up justice.